Good morning, Scott. How are you today?
Hi, Michelle. How are you?
I'm good. You know what, Scott? I have to say, how long have I known you? Maybe 20 years, 30 years?
Yeah,
Oh
yeah.
shit. We're aging, we're aging ourselves. So it's
But
so
we don't look it at all.
oh
We
my God,
play much younger. We
I
play much
still
younger on
look in the
television.
mirror and think I'm 27. And then I go, oh, wait, hold on, turn on the light. I'm just
I
kidding.
don't want to play 27 anymore.
Yeah, actually, 27, we weren't as secure as we are now. And that's the beautiful thing. Funny enough, where we come full circle is this beautiful
Yes.
gift of knowing each other in our 20s, right? And then coming to our 50s and being so self-assured and so sure of who we are and relating on a different level. Like it was the party times back then, right? And
Yeah.
about our careers and building and all of that. And now it's about being and seeing your true essence and the
Mm.
gift that you share with one another on another level. And it's so beautiful, it really is. Which is why I wanted to invite you to interview me. So
Yes.
you are the first male that I am going to have interview me. And it's not even about being male, it's about common connection. And I started to think about the podcast, and I've been seeing that people are really curious about me and wanting to know more about the evolution of me going from the corporate world to coaching, and then from coaching to starting my own business and the podcast and spirituality and personal growth. And it's rich and it's deep, and I think you can't get it in just one interview with somebody, right?
Right.
And you and I have always connected on a deep level. You're a deep thinker, a deep feeler, and it's something that I really love about you. And I'm blessed enough to have seen you through many transitions, not just in your career, but also, frankly, you lost your wife to cancer, and you've been a single father, and you've had a lot of pain that you've endured that I have witnessed you go through as your friend. And I have always loved that you sought out honesty and truth and wanting to seep into that, you know?
Yeah.
And it's a beautiful quality of yours, which is why I knew you'd be a beautiful person to interview me.
Mm. Thank you, Michelle. That's beautiful. I can't say enough about you as well. And I love our connection. And I think it's so amazing to see this transition for you, this transformation, this evolution that you and we are both going through. And I find it's people at this age, this 50, early 50s, that if you are dialed in at all to interest and interested in making that a further connection with whatever that may be, that this is the time. It feels like I'm meeting a lot of young 50-year-old people that are interested in finding a way to connect their spiritual side with their work, with their family, and make it a little bit more 360 holistic, as opposed to kind of keeping them in these boundaries. I should say I did break my wrist. We were just talking about that. So if you see me with this cast on, but it's no big
So
deal. You know
pretty.
what I mean? It's just something. And so I'm
And
really,
I
I've
think
been
you're
so
right.
impressed.
It's interesting. Our generation was raised of the thought process that we live in silos, and that you experience, your work life is your work life, your husband life is your husband life. Even your personal life with your friends was different sometimes than your relationship with your husband. And
Yes.
then there was your, spiritual life, and people didn't always speak about their spiritual life. Sometimes, obviously Americans kind of keep it separate because it can sometimes border on politics.
Yeah.
However, I believe that people are seeking, and coming out from COVID, people are in desperate need to connect on a level that's real. And I hate to use the word authentic, but because it's overused, but really, truly, authentically soul connection. Um,
Yes.
and I know that's where we connect.
Yeah, and it's not something relating to work. You don't have to soul connect with every person you meet at work.
Yeah.
It's not about that.
Mhm.
It's just about, we were just talking about the word holding space.
Mhm.
It's about an honest conversation with somebody, with a coworker, that you're not having another conversation in your head about how you're trying to solve this person's issue. It's like people are interested in making that connection today, which is why you're having so many people quit jobs so
Exactly.
quickly, because it's like, you're not treating me with what I need out of this exchange. And I can't make this my daily go to job if this is what I'm feeling personally and spiritually when it comes right down to it. So, my question to you is, as you coach these people, as you coach your candidates and the people that you're working with, how do you kind of suggest to find that space for the connection of a coworker? Because coworkers, it's a different world. You're not a friend, and
Mhm.
you're not a parent, and you're not a family member. You're a coworker. It's like neighbors.
Mhm.
You have to get along with your neighbor. You don't have to, but
Yes.
to make your life easier, you have to get along with your neighbor. I kind of feel the same with coworkers. So how do you coach them on making space for that opportunity?
It's an interesting question because I just went through this actually with a client, and this woman was working in a male-dominated technology industry, and she's a producer of content, and essentially was having trouble because she felt that when she was in the room that nobody took her seriously, and that nobody was really, she was the only mother, by the way, also, so
Mm,
nobody was interested in her story. So my first inclination, okay, because I'm all about connection, you know me. In fact, when I was younger, I didn't even really realize this, but it's so kind of telling that I ended up doing this as a living, because I used to go into situations and almost like play a game, because I
mm,
knew I was so good at it. I knew it was one of my talents, but it was actually subconscious, that I was like, I'm going to go in and I want to understand that person's story. So the word that's coming up for me is really for any of us. Okay. What you were talking about was essentially the word earlier was listening and being present, right? That
mm.
we're not running the dialogue behind our head about how we have to get this project done and everything, right? It's being present. There's a
Yeah,
presence that you have, right? That you control this space, of your own being, right? But then being present to that person's emotions, right? Or
yes,
interaction or exchange of energy that we have with one another, right? And really, then to take that a step further is something so simple: getting curious about
yeah,
people, like
yeah,
really showing that you care, that so there's the listening component, right? But it's, when this woman said to me, she's like, they don't want to know anything about me. I said, well, I'm just curious, do you want to know anything about them, or are you only expecting that they, tell you or take an active interest in you? So what role do you play in that? And how do you help the situation and help yourself develop connections better with other people? Because
yeah,
we have choice in how we choose to interact with others. And for me, I never like to go in as an expert anywhere. Like, I mean, I think somebody called me a guru recently or something, and I was like, guru, whoa, that's a very strong word, please don't use that word with me. um,
yeah,
for me, it's about coming in as the novice. In Zen Buddhism, right, they talk a lot about this, is that you learn through being, you learn through observing, you learn through listening on the deeper level. It's not just through meditation, it's taking the meditations that we have in our sitting to our daily practice of how we interact with people, right?
yeah, 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 totally. And I think, I think the word "tell me more" keeps coming up for me, because that's such a good phrase
Mhm.
for you to be able to show somebody that you're hearing them.
Mhm.
It's like, wow, you know what? I hear that. Tell me more. And now
Mhm.
all of a sudden they're engaged. It's like, oh, you want me to tell you more. And now all of a sudden, and that's not only is that for life, but when it comes to a coworker, that's a way for you to immediately engage somebody, be of interest, be curious, show them, even if it's just that there are two or three of those. Really, tell me more. Wow, what do you
Mhm.
think about that? You know, I remember sitting in meetings. We both worked for the same company for a while,
Yep.
way back when. And one of the biggest complaints I had as a creative person was if I have to go to another meeting to just hear somebody talk and reinforce what their job is in front of all of us,
And
because
listen
that's
to
what
me.
they do,
Yes.
then it's not helping anybody other than that person. And I find that you're always going to run into the
That's ego.
narcissistics.
It's
You're always going to run
narcissistic
into
and
the
it's
narcissistic side of bosses,
mhm.
but there's even a way to change that narcissistic person into on somebody that you can work with, you know, because that narcissistic person, I hate to say it, if you don't like that person, guess whose problem it is? It's
Yours.
your problem.
Yours. Exactly.
It's not theirs. And so how do you learn, and that's my next question. How do you coach somebody on saying, I've, you know, let's go back to that woman who's dealing with an all male room of a lot of narcissists,
Yeah.
whether they are or not. But how do you coach somebody saying, I've got a narcissist for a boss, all he wants to do is hear himself talk, and if I don't do something the way he wants it done, then I'm not a team player.
Well, I mean, I think first of all, I think one of the most beautiful gifts is being able to see each person's greatest value in a team, right? And I'm not
Mhm.
talking about values like as in your value set. I'm saying
Right,
what's their greatest strength and skill, right? And
right,
playing to that. So
right.
even the narcissist has a weakness, right? And there's a reason why, if he's a good leader, he's actually identified like why you're on his team, right? You're giving him something. It's an exchange, him or her.
Mhm.
I'm sorry
That's
for saying
interesting.
that.
Yeah, yeah, that's
So,
okay.
yeah, like it's an exchange, right? So in which case, what is it that he needs from you that is your greatest asset? And what is it that you need from him? And how are you actually conveying to him in in his way, right? So there's a book that I have used since I was in college, right, in undergrad. It's called Getting to Yes, and it is about the power of persuasive communication.
Mm,
And it honestly is a book that's like this big, but this book has come back around. Like, okay, what, I graduated 30 years ago from undergrad. Okay, it came up
yeah,
when I worked at USC's business school. It came up when I went to coaching school. It was one of the books that they recommended. I recommend it to people. And why do I recommend it to people? Is because it is about coming to a common yes. And it doesn't have to be a yes, or it's like, yes, I agree to disagree, or yes, I could see your point in that, but here's my point, delicately put, right?
yeah, yeah.
And and I think the thing is that it's not about always getting your way. It goes back again to the point of listening, because
Mhm.
sometimes when we know that most people, the average person, basically listens to respond, not listen to receive. So if you are actually listening to receive information, there is generally, even with the narcissist, going to be some validity to what that person's trying to convey to you. So if we could set our egos aside, right, and come from what's the goal? What is the common goal for not just my boss, but also the collective group?
Yes, I
What
love
is
that.
the goal we're trying to reach? Because if I could set myself aside and everything that I know that I want to convey, because I want to push it through, we were talking about this before we got on the call, is about patience.
Mm,
And it's funny, I've been observing myself a lot around patience and just practicing being still in that, and that I don't have to push it. Like you and I were talking, I think it was you. Yeah. You and I were talking about preparing for the TED Talk, right? And
yes,
you were saying to me, Michelle, because I said to you, oh, there's a TEDx Women in Atlanta. And
yes.
it's in November, and I'm not done writing it, and I have to apply for it, and I'm already late for the application. And what a great opportunity. And you were like, it's okay. There's gonna be other opportunities. And you
Right.
know that. And you'll get in. Why
Yeah,
push it? You don't need to push it. Do it because it feels right. And
yeah,
that's the thing. That is the part of American culture and corporate culture in general that needs to shift. is that it's not about pushing to this deadline that is, frankly, most of the time a fictitious deadline. Yes, you have to answer to the street. Yes, there's product development issues and all those different types of things. But just like in entrepreneurship, a lot of times where you stop and you take a step back and you're like, what does this deadline really mean, anyways? Like, what if we did that
Yeah.
more in corporate America instead of saying, like, oh, we did our 5-year plan and we have to do it to this? What if we had the courage to actually go to the narcissist or go to whoever it is, the street, and be honest about what our shortfalls are?
Yeah, I think we are so goal oriented and so business time oriented that that we have to do that. And just to your point, I've worked with bosses where they're like, and I need the budget tomorrow night, and I'm like, we don't even have the work yet. Yeah, but and so it's like, well, this is so I can check it off of my box to get my stuff done. And maybe that's your role for that person, just to your point. Maybe you realize, okay, you know what? In order for me to get my stuff done, I'm just going to do this and get it done. You're thinking in your head, we don't even have the business. When we have the business, I will get you a budget. But it's like,
Mhm.
no, I need to do this right now because this is my process. You know, one thing that we
Everybody brings their
forget.
own anxiety into it.
And everybody has their own process, and you don't have a right to put your stuff on somebody else's process. That goes for professional and, more importantly, personal when it comes to a husband and wife, a
Mhm.
family member, or anything like that. It's like this person needs their own time to process this project.
Mhm.
And you as a boss also have to realize they may need more than a day to process this, because I know that they don't like me just jumping in and saying, and I need this tomorrow. It's
Yes.
like, give it, hey, when do you think you can get that to me, knowing that it's kind of important for me to check this off of my box? Now all of a sudden that changes the dynamic. Wow, he just let me into how he thinks, and I'm going to be honest with him. I just need a day or two to wrap my head around it. I may have more questions, as opposed to, if I don't get it done, I'm not a team player. If I don't get it
Well,
done, then you failed.
I think the thing is that it's exactly what you said in the very beginning about creating space. So we don't always have to have an answer right away. That was something I learned after I left the corporate world too. That it's okay to ask for extra time and tell somebody you don't have the answer. Which, I mean, we all remember being in a room with over 100 people, and you're counting head count to as we're waiting there for hours for the executive to come into the room,
Right.
wasting money, budget, everything. But that being said, like, it's okay to tell your boss, let me think about that and I'll get back to you. It's okay to actually tell your boss or your partner or your child or whoever it is that you need to create space from the situation in order to answer. What it is not okay, in my opinion, to ever do is to be unkind.
Yeah.
There is
Yeah. Not
no space to be unkind. And let's define kindness, because not everybody, we have to, this goes back to the book Getting to Yes, right? When you are trying to create a sale, convert somebody to your viewpoint, whatever it might be, it's very important to not come from your motivations. We have to look at the person. This is why, like, for example, you go to corporate world and everybody does like 360s assessments, and they do Myers-Briggs or any of
right.
them, like any of these
Yes.
personality profiles. The problem is, in my opinion, we give people these skills to know, well, this is who you are. Okay, they put you in a box.
Right.
But what it doesn't do is actually tell people, how do I work with you within a team? So the thing about it is, that's the beauty of it. If you can
Yeah.
understand where somebody is intrinsically motivated from, this is why I talk about values a lot, is because it's not just like, oh, well, these are my 5 top core values, like community, inspiration, connection, collaboration, all that stuff. But freedom, here's the thing. If you strip those things from me, it's like the death of me.
Yeah.
Right. And so when we talk about like working within teams, if you know Michelle's a collaborator and you know Michelle likes to build community, she's probably the right person for you to go in and talk to, for her to go in and talk to the boss or the leader, or to go cross collaborate between teams. Why? Because she's going to listen to all the constituents and come to a common ground, because that's
Yeah.
her gift, her skill set. Not everybody is gifted in that way. We don't use
No.
people's gifts.
Mm. That's really interesting. I love that. And I think I want to go back to something you touched on, which I have found very helpful in general. You know, there are times where coworkers or your children want to just vent. They do
Mhm.
not need you to solve a problem. We, as people like you and I, were like, oh, I can fix this. I can
Love
solve
the
this right
garlic.
now. Yeah, I mean, I can do this, no problem. And you know, that's not fair. And that's not fair in the sense of, so what I've done is I've changed. I'm like, hey, two things come to mind. I've told my son, I'm like, hey, there are times where I hear you just wanting to vent and not me solving the problem. So when you come to me, if you can give me that cue and say, hey, dad, this is a venting conversation, then my expectation and my brain and the space I'm holding for you completely changes. And
Totally.
my body language changes, and everything about this exchange changes, as opposed to him coming to me saying, I have this problem, because then you're on your, and you know, the fight or flight is happening and all this stuff is going on, as opposed to, I'm just going to be there for you. I'm going
Mhm.
to hold the space and say, tell me more about that. As opposed to, there are times where you're going to have to solve a problem, but even those problem solving. And so I wonder, can you apply that to work? Can you apply that to somebody at work if you're a leader and
Yeah.
say, because I've heard people start to think and say, hey, if you've got a problem, take 15, I'm giving you 15 minutes to hold on to this problem and negativity. But
Mhm.
after that 15 minutes is up, man, you got to move on,
Mhm.
because that's why, getting to the spiritual side of things, meditation has changed the way I manage problems and the way I manage things coming at me now, because the best way I can describe it is it has given me the opportunity to see the blue sky beyond the cloud that's hanging over my head in the moment, knowing that the cloud is going to pass by. It's
Absolutely.
not going to be my reality forever.
Yes.
A lot of people talk. A lot of people after COVID started talking in seasons. This
Yes.
is just a season of my life. This is not the be all end all if things are bad right now. Talk to me about how you coach people on how they are so mired in negativity. Because for me, when I now realize that I'm mired in negativity, I also realize this isn't the job for me anymore.
It's so
I'm
funny that you
divesting.
say that. I describe my life, um, when I chose to leave the corporate world 20 years ago, or yeah, ish 20-ish years ago. Um, I remembered that it was time. And do you want to know why?
Mm,
I stopped fighting for what I believed in. And
yeah,
so, you know me, you and I are very similar that way, is that if I believe in something, I'm going to go to the end. You want me to be in the front holding the cross for the crusade, right?
yeah.
And I knew that when I started saying to my boss, what do you want on the paper? I've been here 5 times. I've showed you the numbers. It's not working. So I don't want to go back and forth anymore to the team. It doesn't help them. It's not helping me. What do you want on the paper? What's the number you want to see? And I'll come back with that number. I'll tell you I can't do. And so I knew I didn't want to play the game anymore. I
Mm,
knew that the game, why are we playing a game? Why can't we, going back to communication, why can't we have transparent conversations where somebody explains to you, just like how you're saying that you ask your son, you know, is this a time where you'd like to vent, or is this a time where we're going to problem solve, right? Similarly, in my experience, good leaders don't need to bring their ego to the table, or not, or will tell you, I want you to go through this exercise because it's going to teach you X, Y, and Z. And I think that will help your growth. That's transparent. But somebody who's intentionally making you drive everybody crazy on your team, that's
Yes.
not okay. That is not good leadership. That's full of
And
ego.
that's something that I think more and more leaders are beginning because of people like you. And I want to kind of circle back to this concept that in this day and age, whether it's TikTok or Instagram or seminars, that
Mhm.
there is more available in this day and age for leaders to be able to get resources, to meet with people like you, to follow somebody on TikTok, to understand that this conversation is happening in the world, whether you like it or not. You're
Yes.
either going to try to start getting on board with even just small little quotes and moments and books to read, or you're not going to get the output that you're looking for as a leader, and you're going to start questioning you as a leader, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, I mean, I think everybody is being required to shift, right? And so I think when you said, how do you handle, I know I got a little off on a tangent because I started
That's
talking
okay.
about like how I, why for me, I knew it was time to leave the corporate world. But as far as like specifically addressing negativity, because there are a lot of really negative people that are energy zappers, like, take from you, and frankly, like people like you or I who are problem solvers, but are also people are attracted to, because,
Yes.
and by the way, the more you enter into spiritual growth and that your energy is oozing, the more magnetic you are to attract people who want to take more from you as well, right? So you have to be very discerning, and this is something that I had to learn more and more, and I still get caught in it, is that because I'm a helper and I love people. I'm a lover, I'm a helper, I'm all about being kind to people. And so sometimes it's hard for me to set a boundary. Like I want to help the person be more positive, right? We can't change a person. They have
Mm,
to choose to want to change themselves. So it's almost like you become an observer of their process and their journey, but you cannot choose to take that on for yourself. So as far as like shifting, it's really a mindset, right? So there's the book mindset, as we all know. And it's having a mindset of a growth mindset that is choosing to see yourself, right? And choosing to shift your verbiage, right? And to say, wow, I'm hearing that I am in this mode. And by the way, if you are somebody who has trouble with, negative thought processes, sometimes it's also good to remove yourself from those environments as well. When you're looking at work environments, for example, it's know thyself. If the
mm.
job is requiring you to, like, I have a client that I have been working with who doesn't want to manage people anymore. She's like, they keep wanting me to manage people. I don't want to manage anybody anymore. I
Yeah.
said, are you willing to take less money? Because that's the reality. If you don't want to climb and you don't want to like manage people and you just want to do this role, then you have to look at opportunities that are solely focused on that type of role, because
Yeah.
most of the time you're going to be required to manage people and do your job, and not everybody is good at it.
No, and that's okay. You know what I mean? That's fine. Getting back to something you said, which I think also gets me into a conversation about tea. But I think labeling is really big for me.
Yeah.
Labeling what this is really all about and diving in a little bit deep. Oh, this is anger. I'm frustrated because I'm angry. I'm angry because I'm scared I'm not going to get this done. I'm scared I'm not going to get this done because people are going to think I'm a failure. You have to, just to your point, know thyself, or at least give yourself an opportunity to be open to exploring what this moment with your coworker and this exchange is really about. And most of the time, we always get back to fear.
Yeah.
It's always fear. One way or another, it's fear. And if you can label it and label it and label it and just say, oh, that's fear, that's anger, that's
But
frustration.
I'm gonna
Now,
I'm gonna add to that. Label,
yeah,
if you want to label, that's fine, but don't judge it. Like
No,
just as you
nobody said
said
that.
earlier, no, I know you didn't, but I know what people do, right? Is that they label it like I'm angry, and then a lot of times then they come back and they feel guilt or shame or frustration
Mm,
for feeling that way about that
so
person.
good.
And feelings come and feelings go, right? Just like you said earlier, you could be sitting in this frustration and your boss says, I want you to take 15 minutes and I want you to let it go. First of all, they need some tools around like, well, how am I going to let it go in the next 15 minutes? Because
Yes.
not everybody's capable. Like, for example, obviously, you know my family well. Like Chris or Gabby, don't let things go. Like
Right.
Gabby constantly says to me, how are you suddenly happy now? And I'm like, well, because I let things go really easily. Like somebody could be so mean to me and I will literally sit in self-reflection and say, what part of that is true for me? Because we
Yeah.
are actually mirrors of one another, right? Whatever you're feeling is what I'm feeling. And I'll never forget that. Like, of course, when I went through the process of leaving the corporate world, I went through a huge transition. I feel like I'm in that next huge transition again in my life where I'm
Yeah.
learning and growing and evolving and doing shit that's like so out there that like people are like, what are you doing? Like, what are you being trained in now? But it's helping me grow. And so when I don't hold on to it because it's not serving me.
Yeah, it's a phrase, we call it non-judgmental curiosity.
Yes.
Just be curious about where this is coming from, but nobody told you to judge it.
Yes.
Have non-judgmental curiosity about this moment and hold on to it, and after you examine it, nurture it.
Yes.
Nurture that feeling and give yourself an opportunity to say, I'm there for you. I'm here and it's going to be okay.
Like this heart of
Literally
ours,
do this.
yes,
Literally do this.
this heart of
And
ours like cares for us in so many ways. Like we lose sight, like our body is just a vessel. We are made from energy, and so the energy exchange, like why do I choose to let it go? Like if it's a small interaction, and I'm not saying it's small for that person, right?
yeah.
Because I have to recognize for that person it may be magnified, right?
Yes.
And
Yes.
so, on a cellular level, I don't want to hold on to that trauma. I have enough childhood trauma that keeps resurfacing that I'm like,
Mm.
I thought I dealt with that. Why is it coming back? You know? Um, and so, like, that's really just it is that we have choice in how we want to see the world,
Take
view the
take it
world.
in.
Yeah, take it in. And I think that was one of my biggest gifts when I left the corporate world was when I had my violent allergic reaction and people kind of minimize it like, oh, it's an allergic reaction, no big deal. No, it was a big deal. I had hives all over my body. I had to go to the emergency. I was monitored for the evening and all to be told it was nothing, right? It wasn't until I actually was forced to go to the allergist the next day because I was sure I was going to make it into my presentation the next day, 7 a.m. And my
Mm.
my workaholic friend, Nancy Cho, Kim, was like, she was working for Palm. So this is like, Palm was cutting edge then. Um, she was like, you are not going to work tomorrow because Chris was traveling and I
Yeah.
was basically I was working, but back then we were like 2 airplanes passing the night. I was doing international marketing. I was like, I'm doing awesome. And she was like, I'm taking you to an allergist tomorrow. And I was like, I don't know any allergists. She's like, well, I do. And so I went to the allergist, and the man said to me, he said, can you please describe your lifestyle? And I said, this is what I do, blah, blah, blah. And this man was a gift from God because I will
Mm.
tell you, some people would revere where you and I were back then, right? Like,
Right.
doing
Right.
so well,
Yes.
and making great money and whatever.
Yeah. Top of the world.
Yes.
Yeah.
He looked at me and he said, well, it sounds like you got to drastically change your lifestyle. And I looked at him and I was like dumbfounded. It was like that person that stops you in a tracks that is like a stranger. And I said, well, what do you mean? He said, well, if you've been receiving hives for the last 3 months on your neck, and you think that by putting a Diet Coke on your neck, is going to basically help get rid of your hives, your body is having a cellular reaction to your stress,
Yes.
and you can choose to listen, or you can next time actually be in here because you're going to have a heart attack possibly.
And this goes back to the first thing we started with, which is at 20 something, you'd never believe it. At 50 something, it took me so long for me to have enough trust and intuition to listen to my body and to
Mhm.
listen to what's going on a cellular level. It
Absolutely.
is incredible to me that we don't understand how deeply, when you meditate, you breathe into every cell in your body. You're not just breathing in, you are trying to get down to a cellular level of breathing and feeding and nurturing and giving nutrients to your cells. That's why Wim Hof is so popular right now. He deals with a breathing method that gets you cellularly regenerated.
Exactly.
And it's incredible that it takes us so long for our mind, for because right, when we were in our 20s and top of the world, it was all up here. It was
Yeah,
all up here, and
totally.
then
It's all
nothing,
here and
literally
nothing
nothing to
here.
do, nothing to do with the head down. It was
Yeah.
all here.
Hmm.
And now it stinks that it takes so long for us to
I was
find that
just having
integration.
Totally. I was just having this conversation with this woman at boxing this morning who's a fucking badass. And I think she's around our age. But anyways, she somehow, I don't know, she follows me on Instagram and she's like, "Hey, I didn't know that you went to USC." And I said, I go, "Yeah." She goes, My husband went there for business school. And I said, "Oh, like funny enough, I was actually never in the business school. I worked in the business school." I said, but I said, you know, she said, "How did you find your way to coaching anyways?" And I said, "Well, it happened because I had a violent allergic reaction." And I was just like, "Well, what do I want to do now?" Right. And it was a year of like discovery and transition and true personal growth. I was doing shit like kind of like I'm doing now, but now I'm like next level of shit.
Yeah.
But like, she was like, why is it that it takes us until our 50s to own who we are? And I
Yes.
said, it's so funny that you say that because I was just thinking about life stages and I was like, why is it that we can't learn these lessons earlier? Which I do think the younger generation, is it because we have to go through experience? I'm not sure.
Yeah, I really do think it's partly because our ego has to have a say for a long time. And
Mhm.
and in order for us to call upon deconstructing our ego and letting that go a little bit, you don't know that until you experience that stuff. And even this younger generation, they have their version of that too. Their
Okay.
fight or flight is always going to be there.
Yeah.
That DNA of fight or flight. But I think, and it's so strong in our 20s and 30s because of where our brain is developing, and as we kind of settle in, I think we're able to see a little bit more of that. Oh, that's just that fight or flight in us, that's that ego in us. But you're not going to be able to see that until, like you said, you have those experiences, you live part of that life and have that perspective. I don't know many young people in their 20s and 30s that are having these levels of conversations now because they're so focused on different things in their life, and that's
Yeah.
okay. There's no judgment when I say
No.
that. It's just where they are,
Great
and I
times in
get
your
it.
life. The building the foundation is a beautiful time in your life. It is
Yes.
beautiful. And I am so grateful for so many people who have come into my life like through the years. I replay, I'm sure like you do, conversations that I had with people, and yeah, just interesting. It's very interesting. But I wanted to share something with you about the exchange of energy
Mm.
and stuff. So yesterday I was getting out of my car and there was this beautiful black woman who was walking by me. Looked super interesting. She was wearing like a scarf over her head, beautiful lipstick, beautiful bright pink lipstick. And I was leaving and getting into my car and I just saw her and I gave her a smile. That was it. And she came to my window and she said, "I want you to know something." And I said, "Oh, okay." And she said, "Keep smiling at people." She
Yes.
said, "You
Love
know
that.
why? Your smile is so beautiful.
Mm.
It was such a gift to me. And then she looked at me and she said, "It's not by chance that we met." And I thought, well, I believe in this kind of stuff, right? And so I said, you know what? I think you're absolutely right. I said, you know what? I saw you. I saw how beautiful you were, and I needed to smile at you because I wanted you to know that I saw you.
Yeah. That's, you just said it. I see you. I see you. And Michelle, that is such a gift that you give to every one of the people that you coach, to everybody in your life. You really do have that. And I think for you to have changed the energy from this go-getter of a person in the sense of problem solving to using all of that force for what is now really needed in our world, which is moments like that.
Mhm.
And that is a gift that not many of us have. That for you to be able to hear that was incredible, because we don't get that at all. We don't get that kind of feedback. And for you to have gotten that feedback must must make it very clear that not only are you on the right path, but you are doing good for this world. And I think, my friend Michelle, I am just so proud of you. I love the name of the company, EmpowHer. I talk about it all the time. I
Mhm.
talk about producing
You're such
content.
you're such a supporter of women, period.
Well, I talk about doing content all around based on that word, empower.
Mhm.
And I'm like, I got to figure out a way to make this connection from a visual standpoint, because I'm a storyteller and I'm a
Yeah.
visual person. And I got to find that way, because I just had this conversation and I know we've got to wrap it up. But, you know, the traditional way of marketing and advertising does not work anymore.
No,
People don't want to be talked at anymore. They
totally agree.
want they want to hear what you just said, which is I see you. And
Mhm.
if you can do that, no matter what the product is, I don't care if you're selling cars or insurance or whatever.
Mhm.
If you can if you can do it in a way that make people feel seen
Mhm.
and heard,
Mhm.
and not just having somebody talk at you,
Yeah.
that's the same thing. And I think in this day and age, especially right now where we are in the world, people want to be heard. People want to be seen.
Well, and I think the thing that's so interesting, this goes back to your earlier question, right? First of all, she gave me a gift too, right?
Yes, yes.
I slowed down, got curious, and listened. Because honestly, I could have been like, who's this lady at my window, like knocking on the door, knocking on, the window.
Yeah.
But the interesting thing was why how your brain works like in split seconds, right? Literally the day before, I was in the car with the girls and somebody came violently knocking on our window, and I was like, oh my god. So when the
Yeah.
woman started to walk toward my window, she's a beautiful woman, there was no problem, but it was more like, I was like, okay, is she going to violently knock on the window, like at first? And I was like, trust your intuition. And she was beautiful, and we exchanged numbers, we took a picture together, like she's like, my name's Gigi, I live in Korea,
Wow.
I'd love to get to know you. I'm like,
That's
oh, very sweet.
that's really sweet. And just closing to that point about intuition, I have found that in my last 3 or 4 years of spirituality and working towards it and practicing it every day and meditating, that I have never trusted my intuition more than I do now. I
Mm.
have never trusted any that inner voice within me, because it has led me everywhere I need to go. I think when my ego is attached to it as much as it was when I was trying to gain something and get something from some transactional activity at work, that had nothing to do with trusting the voice within me now. And that voice right now has led me down such an amazing path professionally that I find myself, I just had two amazing interactions with a gentleman yesterday who's a leader in his field, who basically said at the end, he's like, Scott, you have me leaning into everything you're saying. And I was like,
Wow,
first of all, I love that
that's
phrase,
so
I'm leaning
powerful.
in.
Me too, I
He's
love
like,
that.
and I said, wow. And then this morning I had an interaction and he's like, Scott, you are saying everything I need to be hearing right now. And it's not for me trying to say that stuff. It's me
It's coming from your
authentically
heart.
talking.
Yeah.
It is. And they say, Scott, your enthusiasm is vital to this. It is. And I want, what I'm finding more is, yes, I have something to say and I'm really good at what I'm saying, but they're also buying me. They're also buying me
Yes.
into, I want him to be part of this process for the coworkers out, the consult. I'm
Yeah,
hiring you as a
this
consultant.
goes into your essence, right? So we are coming to the table with an essence to share with people, right? And again, it's like, well, how do you want to show up?
Yeah.
How are
Yeah.
we choosing to show up in any given moment?
Yeah.
Positive, negative, angry, frustrated, you know, and not misuse it. Like there's no
Yeah.
reason to misuse somebody's kindness or trust, even when you are angry yourself at the person. How can
Right.
we remove your anger and emotions, be reflective, and ask for that extra time that we were talking about, right? Before you
Yeah.
convey something that might truly hurt, right?
Right. And do the work and do the work. Always be doing the work. I don't, every day
Me,
you can find something.
yeah, like you said, there's little things you could do, like affirmations. Like you said, there's so much available out there. It's like it's kind of overwhelming, to be honest with you. When I look at
Yeah.
for example, my Instagram feed is filled with all personal growth stuff. So I'm
Me
always,
too.
oh, like,
Yeah.
but what I would say is that you don't have to do everything all at once, and you don't also have to do everything in general. Like, I definitely try to meditate every day. It doesn't mean that it's like I'm sitting in silence for 30 minutes, an hour, whatever it is.
No.
Sometimes I'm listening to a meditation, a guided meditation. Sometimes I'm walking, whatever it is. But I try to be present. It's really about being present, right?
It is. It is. And breath work and listening. And I'll finish with this. I think
I'm
getting back
doing
to
the
your
most
Instagram.
amazing breath work. I have to tell you, you need to start doing it. His name is Curtis Lee Thomas, and he does them on Zoom, by the way. But it is powerful, like
Okay.
a breathwork detox. He has one on Monday. You should come.
All right, I'll send me the information. I will say, the good news about having all of this personal growth information on your Instagram is the fact of the matter is we are so programmed to having the first thing in the morning, looking at night. If those are the two first things that you see and you go to bed with at least some sort of positivity,
Yes.
I'm kind of giving you a pass on that. I'd rather you not be looking at your phone at night or in the first thing in the morning. Because look, first thing in the morning, I'm praying and I'm meditating and I'm making my bed and I'm doing 15 minutes of core work before I even leave my room. That's
Woo! Check out those abs. What's up?
Do me a favor, don't check out those abs. Anyway, Michelle, thank you so much for giving me this space and holding space for me. You have been such a dear friend to me my whole life, and I love you for it. I want to continue these conversations, and I think they're really important. And I hope your people, the podcast world kind of sees it as that. It's just another element in what you bring insofar as your professional coaching. And I won't call you a guru, but I will call you a leader and a spirit guide and somebody who is really gaining so much momentum in this field. And I wish you all the best. I love you so much.
I love you so, so much, Scott. And I really, that landed. It means a lot. And as you know, I would never ask somebody to come and interview me that I didn't value on a greater level beyond just your skill set. I mean, who you are and what you do professionally is amazing, and you've always been a leader in that. But beyond that, I feel honored to be in presence with you and have been friends for so long.
Thanks, Michelle. I
Really.
really appreciate it.
One thing,
Yeah.
I want people to know how they could reach you also, just because I think it's important that people, if you did have, there's a lot of different people that are female entrepreneurs that look for producers. And
Oh,
so
no question.
if you could tell our audience how people can reach you, that'd be great.
You can email me at the number 2 and my last name chalk at gmail.com. Talk to chalk at gmail.com. That's a great way. My first name is Scott. and I'm happy to have any kind of conversations with your family,
You're not that
especially.
active on Instagram, but you also have at Talk to Chalk, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's Talk to Chalk on Insta too. I should say that's the easiest way. Slip into my DMs. Um,
As so many people do now.
ew. Anyway, love you. Have a great day, and
Oh,
I'll talk to you soon.
okay. I love you. Bye.